Today, we're honored to speak with Sean Kingsley, the President and CEO of Gold Hunter Resources. Gold Hunter has consolidated over 17,000 hectares in Newfoundland's Baie Verte Peninsula, a region with a rich mining history and more than 15 historic mines dotting its landscape. Gold Hunter itself have 4 past producing pits on its properties, including the Ming West pit that is immediately adjacent to the Ming Mine. ASX-listed Otico Minerals recently acquired the Ming Mine in a $65 million deal. The region is also seeing interest from Newfound Gold, who signed an MOU with Maritime Resources in August. Make sure to read our disclaimer, as this is not investment advice. If you like our content and never want to miss an interview, please subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. So, without further ado, let's jump in.
Hey there, and welcome to another edition of Talk Stocks. I'm your host, Keir Reynolds. And today we're lucky enough to have Sean Kingsley, President and CEO for Gold Hunter Resources. Hey, Sean, how you doing?
I'm good, Keir. Thanks for having me on this. I watched all your episodes, and so I'm looking forward to this. Good chat.
Yeah, great. Well, let's hit it out of the park with yours. Let's make yours the best yet. Hey, maybe for those of us that I've known you for a while, maybe for those of my viewers that don't know who you are, maybe you could explain a little bit about who you are, how you got involved in the business, some of the groups that you're working with.
Okay, so first of all, we don't have enough time to go through the whole story. So I'll summarize it a bit. 24 years old, 16 years ago, almost 17 years now since I got into the capital markets, the junior mining sector. Really had no idea what mining was, what capital markets was, what the back of the newspaper, all those numbers, what they meant. I was fortunate enough to know someone in the business, and he saw something in me. He's like, "You'd be good at what I do." I'm like, "I have no idea what you do." So we spent a whole morning, whole Saturday morning going through everything. And he's a very eccentric character, which many of the people that survive in the capital markets are. And so he got me a job interview the next week, and yeah, I've been here going on 17 years, and I'll be here for the rest of my life. So looking forward to it.
Excellent. You're a very well networked individual. You're kind of one of the next generation of sort of mining superstars. Your name's always in the mix. Maybe you could explain. I mentioned a few of the associations and things that you're up to that help contribute to the mining sector.
That's actually funny. I have to show this picture. You may not be happy that I'm showing it, but I'm going to show it anyways because it is legendary. And it's funny that you say that, the next generation, because this picture, if you guys can see that.
Yes.
There's a young,
I had a better tad.
Keir Reynolds and Tommy Humphries. And Tommy Humphries said the same thing, like the next generation. And it's unfortunate because there's not enough people getting involved in industry, and so there's a lot of opportunity. And I'm a bit, like you mentioned, I'm a big advocate, ambassador for the industry. I try to educate the general public about metals and minerals. And I'm sitting in AME's office right now, which is the Association for Mineral Exploration. I've been volunteering here for 13 years now, and it's not easy. It's not easy to educate people on, if it's not grown as mined. We're completely surrounded by metals and minerals. And the longer that the public doesn't realize how much we depend on this industry and what we produce, it's just going to be more expensive for all of us living in it. So, yeah, you're right. I do a lot. I volunteer all my free time. I live and breathe this industry for 7 days a week. I'm on call. I host Mining for Beer here in Vancouver every month. Usually every third Thursday of the month, I get about 100 plus people coming out. Everyone loves it, from the major mining companies to the brokers to, the unemployed geologists. It's all about networking and, hearing the stories and sharing the stories and, getting to know each other. And, I don't tell many people this, but when I first got into this business 17 years ago, I am still an introvert, but I managed to be able to fake it till you make it. And the only way I did that was to get out there and meet people and be involved in associations and committees and boards. And so that's a little bit about me, but I do a lot more. But we're not here to talk about that. Let's talk about
part of it is give a chance for people to get to know you. I would have never known you're an introvert. You're obviously out there, always connecting. You're a great connector, and certainly help a lot of different companies and people. So very commendable. One of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, one of the people to sort of follow along with what you're up to. So why don't we jump into what you're up to these days as president and CEO for Gold Hunter Resources? Maybe you could explain a little bit about how Gold Hunter came to be. I guess it was an IPO in 2021, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe you could walk us through a little bit of how it came to be and then how you got involved with them.
Yeah, so the founders of Gold Hunter put it together. My good friend Blair Naughty, he kind of orchestrated it all. He brought along Eric Sprott. He worked with Eric, 20 plus years ago, and he's brought a lot of opportunities to Eric when Eric decided to come to Newfoundland because he saw it was the last frontier, which I agree. I've been going to Newfoundland since 2015 when we had Equitas, if you remember.
Yeah.
In 2016, we were the highest volume trader on the TSX venture. We spent $2.7 million on the first drill program. Didn't get the next Voisey's Bay, but made a lot of friends on the way. In that regards, I've been going back and forth to Newfoundland myself since then, and I've made a lot of relationships, especially with the prospectors. I host a lot of networking events, a lot of parties during PDAC, during Roundup, and everyone comes to me. Where do we go, Sean? What do we do? Who should we see? And that includes all the Newfoundlanders. So yeah, pretty much Gold Hunter was created to take advantage of the opportunities in Newfoundland. And a lot of people don't realize where the mining hub of Newfoundland is. I introduced the company to a few of my friends out there and a couple opportunities. One in particular is the one that we're focused on in Gold Hunter, which is the Rambler mining area, so to speak. It is a great opportunity that really hasn't seen the fruition. Things are happening in the last little bit here, but yeah, like last year when the company acquired the project, I was one of the original finders on the acquisition of the project, and for a little over a year, really nothing was happening. And a lot of my friends in Newfoundland's like, it's a great, amazing project. So what are they doing with it? And so, I decided a few months ago, I'm like, you know what, like, let me take the reins. I want to see this through. It's a great opportunity. Let's take advantage. Now is the time. And so, yeah, it's been a busy few months since I came in as CEO, and it's not going to stop. It's just going to get busier and busier, and we can go through that as we talk.
Excellent. So you kind of touched on it a little bit, one of your projects. Would you mind giving us a bit of an overview of what projects Gold Hunter has and maybe what its strategy is?
Yeah, so the Baie Verte Peninsula in Newfoundland is the mining hub of Newfoundland. It is unrecognized at the moment, even though the Fraser Institute last year ranked Newfoundland, I think, fourth globally for investability. And that's all changed in the last few years when Newfound Gold really came in. Actually, one of the main prospectors of the project that is in Gold Hunter that we're focused on is the one that brought the Newfound Gold team out to the Gander area to go look at all the prospectivity. And I gotta share this with you, and we should share it with the markets. The prospectors have done a great job on the surface. There's multiple generational prospecting families in Newfoundland. Like I can name a handful of them that's, they live and breathe hitting rocks, licking rocks, finding the gold and copper, et cetera, et cetera. But not enough companies have gone out there to actually spend the money in the ground to make new discoveries. So I've got to applaud our friends over at Newfound Gold. They continue to make new discoveries, and that's what Newfoundland is. It's the land of opportunity. It's probably the last jurisdiction, if in Canada, if not in North America, that's really untapped, undeveloped. So in regards to the Baie Verte Peninsula, my project, the Rambler Project, and the surrounding area, including Painted Dory, we're surrounding a mine that's called the Ming Mine. And the Ming Mine was actually in production this year. I believe they're in production around 600 meters. Average grade was about 2% copper. There's a lot of history in this Baie Verte Peninsula. A lot of history, a lot of tragedy, a lot of successes, you name it. But just going into the Rambler area, surrounded by 15 plus mines, in the mid 1800s. when the English first started to come to their colony, Canada, and there was an area called the Tilt Cove. Tilt Cove is just maybe about 30 kilometers away from the Rambler, the main section of the Baie Verte Peninsula, just on the edge. And when they put that into production, actually, I got in my presentation, there's a little stamp there. It was the very first ever globally stamp that's mining affiliated. And it said, what was it? Developing our colony. And it was because they were in production. Like there's deep sea access. They're literally shipping rock, just the ore. They weren't processing or anything. They're just shipping it on the vessels straight to England and processing it out there. They had no idea, maybe like 10, 20 years as this continued, they didn't realize, there's a lot of copper. Like this is a VMS camp. On my property alone, you can find copper grades ranging from 5% to 30% on the surface, literally everywhere. There's smoke everywhere. I got 4 past producing pits on my property, but literally when they were in production at the Tilt Cove, they were shipping the ore out there. Little did they know the values of the gold and the zinc. They didn't find that until later on, and like, holy crap, there's a lot of mineralization. So things changed, wars happened, and like I said, tragedies and so on and so on. But essentially, the Rambler mine is a very special area in Newfoundland that people should start to recognize, and especially just last week, as I mentioned before, the Ming Mine. The Ming Mine actually got acquired. It went on receivership this year. The Chinese were in production with it. Went on receivership. It was unfortunate, the Baie Verte Peninsula, the communities and towns around it. You got to keep in mind that all these towns in the Baie Verte Peninsula and around it, they're all created for the mining industry, the mining, the lumber, and the fishery, but especially the mining industry. And when the Ming Mine went on receivership, a lot of people lost their jobs, and it was at the low. And that was just earlier this year. And, people are wondering, what are we going to do? Like the Ming Mine was the biggest employment generator for the peninsula. So we already knew, we saw the opportunity a little over a year and a half ago. So we consolidated even bigger earlier this year, reached out to all of our prospecting friends, told them our plan to consolidate this area for the first time, which we did. We did amazing terms. They're all friends and they want to see this through with us. So we're really excited, and yeah, like it's going to be fun.
How big? Sorry, go on.
Yep. I just want to finish off that the Ming Mine got acquired about 10 days ago by Oteco Minerals, which is an Australian company, very successful group. Their previous company was Belvedere, which was a huge success. They bought the Ming Mine, which I surround with Gold Hunter, 17,000 hectares, completely surrounding them. And they bought the Ming Mine for 65 million Australian dollars and immediately did a financing overnight, $50 million Australian dollars to get that done. And they announced immediately they're doing 40,000 meters of drilling because they see the upside potential of the growth of the Ming Mine, but there's border limits and we have everything all around them. So it's just going to get exciting, and especially when they start getting drilling sections, say in the next month or two, the type of grades in this area are phenomenal.
And so you're called Gold Hunter. What's the Ming Mine? Is that like polymetallic? What do they produce?
So the Baie Verte Peninsula is a very special, like I said, area. Tilt Cove was mostly copper and gold. If you go a little bit south of Tilt Cove, the Betts Cove, that was predominantly gold. But if you go to the center of the Baie Verte Peninsula, it's actually predominantly high grade copper with a lot of high grade gold. The Ming Mine's average resource grade is about 2%. And like I said, we're on surface for our property. It is ranging from 5 to 30%. It is actually, so Gold Hunter, it should be Copper Hunter, but it's really, I think
Metal Hunter.
the highest.
You're Metal Hunter.
Right? I think the highest grade till sample in the province of Newfoundland is on our property, and that was in gold value. So there's a lot of gold, a lot of copper, a lot of zinc, a lot going on. And at the end of the day, it all gets processed. So yeah, Metal Hunter we should be. Maybe maybe after Gold Hunter gets acquired, we're Metal Hunter 2.0 or something.
There we go. So we'll talk a bit more about that in terms of what the company's strategy is. But so it sounds like you've got a bunch of infrastructure, including the Ming Mine, around you. How advantageous is that for for a junior to have that sort of infrastructure in and around your projects?
Yeah, we're highway access. I was just there 2 weeks ago. Flew into Deer Lake, just on the northwest corner of Newfoundland. Drove less than 2 hours to get to the project on a paved highway, beautiful highway. I was actually telling one of our prospectors at Planet X, like I travel a lot of highways, going through the Golden Triangle, lots of different projects, and the road grade going up to the Rambler mine and the Ming Mine is just so easy. It's such an easy ride, and literally the highway, right off the highway, is access to the Rambler mine to the south and the Ming Mine to the north. If you drive 10 minutes north of the highway, that leads you to the Point Rose project, which just got acquired by Maritime from Signal. That also has the Pine Cove Mill, which, with deep sea access, actually Shoreline Aggregates are our friends at the Bailey family. They've been running that for, generations. When I was there, they literally had a deep sea vessel loading aggregates at the mill site. So it's very active, 10-minute drive or 10 kilometers away. We also have the Pine Cove Mill out by Tilt Cove, which is about a 40-kilometer drive, which I went to go visit as well too. It's about a 45-minute drive. Access, which is super important. Not technically, well, it is for exploration companies like us. We don't want to put anything back into production. That's for another caliber of team. We're there to explore and demonstrate the potential of how much more deposits could be in this area on this property. But road access, highway access to the mine, to one of our mines, and then we have access roads. During the winter times and during the summer times, we got hunters and fishers and families taking these access roads. They got cabins all situated literally like stone throws away from one of the Rambler pit mine, literally. So that's where our team stayed. We had some boots on the ground a few weeks ago. Fred Keats, which is a part of the legendary Newfoundland prospecting family, the Keats family. He was on our property, made a new discovery, which we'll be announcing pretty soon. But yeah, access is huge. If hypothetically we're to go into production, we got the Rambler mine, which was in production. It has a tailings failure that can be cleaned up. It's not our liability, it's the government's liability. But if we can find some partners to clean that up, we got an open pit area, we got the tailings area, we have everything ready to go. But really, we're just there to demonstrate how much more we can find and get acquired.
Excellent. Well, could you maybe talk about what's your sort of flagship project and maybe some of the work that you're looking at kind of doing?
Yeah, so in the last year and a little bit, when we first started working on the Rambler project, we have a consultant that the group spent over 2,500 hours doing data compilation. Nobody has ever there's been a lot of work done in this region, in this area. In this data compilation work that we've done, we looked at 200,000 meters of drilling, over 1,300 drill holes, to really get an understanding of the Ming Mine itself, but also the Rambler. Because as most of us know, if you want to find a mine, you got to look next to one, and they usually come in clusters. And so we know we have the Rambler, we know we have some extensions as well. The Ming Mine itself is positioned like that, but it trends right onto our property. And we also have the Ming West, which was in prior production as well on our property. So, pretty much there's a lot going on in that area. But the upside potential really is the expansion we did. A guy named Victor French, GEO'd in Newfoundland. He's been in the business 60 plus years. He worked, he has a lot of history in the Baie Verte. And so a part of that expansion we did a couple months ago included his Painted Dory project, which has smoke everywhere. And that's where Fred Keats made a discovery a couple weeks ago. that we'll start talking about in a little bit. But yeah, it's a large land position, 17,000 hectares surrounding the Ming Mine, lots of smoke everywhere. And there's been a lot of historical work that nobody has put it together. So we did a lot of that. A lot of that work. We have a lot of drill targets. We got a lot of areas that we believe we can find a lot more copper and gold on the surface before we drill it. So yeah, we've done a lot of the work already to lead us to where we want to go.
And so that project, your 17,000 hectares, that is called the Rambler Project. Is that correct?
Yeah, originally it was called the Rambler South because it's a bit confusing because the Ming Mine was run
Owned
and
by
owned
Rambler.
Rambler Metals and Mining, which
Right.
went into receivership. But we got four past producing mines, which includes the Rambler South, the Rambler West, the Rambler Big Pond, and Ming West. So yeah, it is called the Rambler, but the Painted Dory is adjacent to our Rambler project. So let's just for clarity's sake just call it the Rambler, because now Oteco, which acquired the Ming Mine, is calling it the Green Bay Project, which makes sense because copper is green and there's a lot of copper everywhere. And at first I thought they were the Packers fan, but Australia, yeah.
Great. So yeah, just for people when they're going to do research at your website, if they pull up the Rambler Project, that's the main project that you're going to be sort of advancing. That's kind of the consolidation play where you've consolidated around the Ming Mine. And you've got a bunch of past producing historical sort of mines on your ground. So it sounds like a phenomenal opportunity to start with. Lots of smoke, as you'd say. So fantastic. Are you going to be what sort of like work plans do you have? What types of you talked a lot about the compilation of data, going through a lot of historic in the area to really get an understanding of the geology and whatnot. What sort of other work are you going to be doing in terms of, will you be doing any drilling for the balance of the year? And do you have any seasonality issues with it being in Newfoundland?
So first and foremost, Newfoundland is amazing. 12 months of the year, yearly you can access it. Snow does come down seasonally, but it's actually even better to move around if you have your drill targets lined up. You just ski-doo on, like I said, there's hunters and fishers, there's access roads, like there's literally like access everywhere. So that's the great thing about Newfoundland. I've been there almost every season. Actually, I have been there every season. So I got to really feel, even during the beginning of the moose hunting, which is really big in Newfoundland, pretty much I was there last September, I think is actually this month is when moose hunting starts. So yeah, I kind of coined it in regards to our strategy, the Trident Plus strategy, where, there's, tridents have three main prongs. So we got our shallow resource opportunity where, we have past producing pits. There's a lot of smoke everywhere, like we were mentioning. So there's a lot of opportunity for growth just on the surface. We also have, deposit, the Rambler itself, which has a lot of underground opportunity. It has been drilled. There's lots of amazing intersections in there, like 28 meters of 9 grams. A lot of, really high grade copper as well too. So there's a lot of opportunity to do underground drilling as well. In our presentation on the website, you can see how it's all laid out and what the budgets would be to move things forward. And then the third opportunity is the opportunity for exploration discoveries. A lot of smoke, especially down south where the Painted Dory is, but there's a lot going on. You can actually see on our maps and stuff the mineralization occurrences that's in the government's website. Literally, if you look on the highway going through our property, you can see the mineralization along the highway. Like literally, the prospectors have got out of the car. Hey, that looks like an outcrop, and started chipping away. And sure enough, copper, gold everywhere. But besides out the highway going up north, there's really nothing like outside of the side of the road. So, our plan moving forward is to start with some geophysics, do a full airborne geophysics, really understand kind of where the mineral controls are of these occurrences, what's kind of opportunities we can see outside of where we know there's copper and gold, and then follow it up with some ground geophysics, then do the old-fashioned boots on the ground. I'm a big believer in the systematic exploration, where methodically going through all the data, going through all the historical stuff, taking a bird's eye view, what's going on in this entire camp, and what are the leading indicators to make these new discoveries. Follow that up by a lot of groundwork. We got probably the best prospectors in the world right there in Newfoundland, and everyone's excited about it. So I think that's the first steps. We'll start that almost immediately. We already had boots on the ground a few weeks ago. I think drilling can be like, we do have actually great targets actually. With, come to think of it, as we talk, I think we're strategizing right now. Maybe you should come on as an advisor. A lot of the
Let's see how
historical
the interview does.
a lot of the historical drilling on the property, was from the 60s, 70s. The diameters of the drill hole were small relative
Right.
to what we're using our nowadays modern
no HQ, as they call it.
HQ or NQ. Yeah, they're a very small diameter. So we have amazing intersections on the Rambler itself. If we were to go in there with a diamond drill today, we do have the drill targets. We got a geological model, that hypothetical model that we put together, where we it's open in most directions, so we can start getting some great intersections just in that alone. But I think for an exploration company and for investors, we're both investors. End of the day, why do we do this? We want to make money. We want to make everyone money. I think the most upside potential for value creation is making new discoveries and showing the potential of this property, not just in the areas that have been worked, but in the areas that haven't been worked.
Right.
So airborne geophysics, ground geophysics, boots on the ground. Let's make a bunch of discoveries, and let's show the world why Oteco just spent $65 million for the Ming Mine, and how great this VMS camp is.
Fantastic. Well, I guess you may have something that they might want at some point down the line. So pretty strategic of you to consolidate that. I'm sure that was a lot of work and not easy. So you kind of touched on, you've got the old sort of Rambler mine on your property, which was an underground operation, underground mine, historical. And you talked about some of the drill intersections, some pretty juicy grades there. Talking like 9 grams over 28 meters of gold. That's fantastic. That sounds like some newfound gold type intersection. So do you have any projects there that have 43-101 sort of resources, or are they all would be categorized as historic and non-compliant at this point in time?
Historic and non-compliant for sure. These are, we got some open pit historical in production, plus we got an underground adits that was in production. Just looking over the last 5 years, just looking on the outside, not at Gold Hunter, but just in general, like take, for instance, a great example, our friends at Great Bear, they never came up with a resource calculation because they kept on making new discoveries. And, resource calculations always cap you as an investor to how much the potential is. So Newfound Gold doesn't have a resource calculation yet because they have so much blue sky potential and making new discoveries. So I think that model of, just demonstrating that this property could host multiple more deposits makes more sense than going into a resource calculation. Because then at the end of the day, we just want the valuation, the market capitalization for, a potential takeout. Because to be frank, you're right. Oteco, they may and do need us. We are their exploration upside. The Ming Mine is about that small versus our engulfing property with smoke everywhere. So it makes the most sense for them. But until that that conversation or that happens, we want to show and create value for all of us as investors.
Excellent. So you talked a little bit about some historic drilling. How many drill holes were on your property that you now own?
Yeah, so like I mentioned in the data compilation, we looked at 200,000 plus meters over
That's all on your ground?
1,382 holes. That's where I'm a little confused. I got to talk to our consultants because I think they looked at some of the Ming stuff as well. So getting those numbers for specifically our property. Yeah, I think on our property, we have about 400 to 500 drill holes on the property. It is advanced, Actually, funny story. Like throughout my career, I've always been the right hand to CEOs, and helping guide strategy, marketing, finance, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I always told myself that being a CEO is a thankless job. You don't want to be a CEO, Sean. You never want to be a CEO. No.
Somebody has
But
to do it. So
but
better you than anybody else. So good
at,
on you.
at least with this project, it's advanced. It has so much upside potential. It's not moose pasture. We know there's a lot going on the property in the surrounding area. It has all the infrastructure. It checks all the boxes for success. And so obviously now that I'm CEO, it's still a thankless job. It's a lot of stress. There's a lot of components to it. There's a lot discussion, strategy, talking to investors on a half hourly basis almost. But at the end of the day, if we can build it and it gets acquired and everyone makes money, I think that would be a nice feather in my hat. And maybe one day I can be on. Check this out. You see that little award right
Yes.
there?
Yes.
That is the Murray Pesum Award. You can see his
Yes.
faint face. Some of the most successful people in the mining industry. I can just look at one side: Ned Goodman, Adolph Lundin, John Tugnetti, Ian Telfer. All the household names in this industry that have been successful and made
Excellent.
discoveries and made a lot of people a lot of money. So
Well, it's destiny. You'll be
let's
be
go.
on there if you keep plugging forward. So that sounds pretty fantastic. Then, if you got a good number of historic drill holes, I would imagine you'll be able to like leapfrog, put it into sort of a model.
We have already.
Understand you probably have already done that. I know you're pretty smart with all that sort of stuff. So that's great. And then in terms of your strategy of airborne and getting some boots on the ground and doing some, getting some grab samples and channel samples and things like that can be pretty interesting. So it sounds like that's going to be kind of the bulk of the work that you're going to be doing. We talked a little bit about strategy. I guess strategy is to sort of prove up and maybe make a new discovery or two on the property. In terms of the ownership, just to clarify, you own 100% of these, I guess, various sort of prospector sort of assembled land packages. Is that correct?
So a year and a half ago, when we first acquired the Rambler, it was called the Marwin 1 or just Marwin acquisition. It was a consolidation with a handful of our vendors and prospectors and friends. That deal is, I believe it's a 4-year term. There's share component, there's cash component. Because they're friends, we want to expedite that. So we are already actively in negotiations in order to expedite that and bring it down. The expansion we did 2 months ago, that was I believe about 3 million shares and about $110,000 cash. That's for 100% of all the expansion. We literally expanded almost 300% our land position with that expansion. So that's already owned. That was purchase agreements with 5 or 6 friends, vendors, prospectors. So the Marwin 1, we're still working towards that. But I think with what's going on with Oteco and the Ming, and because we are so aligned with our vendors for the option agreement, we'll be able to expedite that pretty quick to make it more attractive for a potential merger or buyout, just to make sure that's all tied up. We do have NSRs on the property as well. Your typical 2% NSRs divided up with all the different prospectors, different areas, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was a very friendly deal. I have a lot of respect and love for all the people involved on both sides. So that's why I was the right candidate to jump in and move this forward. So that's kind of where the structure is.
Great. And maybe you could, we'll jump into some of the financial aspects. What's your cap table currently look like? How many shares out? What percentage of the company is management owned? Any strategic investors that we might know of?
Yeah, so it is a very tight structure, as you can tell. The last six months we've been the median of 25 cents up to a high of 40 cents. The low I think was like 20 cents when I joined, and I started adding my bids to make sure that I started accumulating my position. But essentially, the founders, all great friends. The largest shareholder of the company is my good friend and your friend as well, Braden Sutton. If you haven't read his book yet,
Yeah.
Money Mindsets, definitely check it out. So Braden's the largest shareholder. I was just talking to him last night. He's super happy, super stoked that we're moving this forward now. The second largest shareholder is my good friend Blair Naughty. He brought in guys like Eric Sprott, Wade Dawes, which has done over $2 billion in transactions. He's originally from Newfoundland, highly successful entrepreneur. My other good friend Brad Newell. Some of us
Yeah.
locally here in Vancouver would know him as the King of Floors,
Yeah.
or if you like
Yeah.
to play
Brad's
golf like
great.
myself,
Yeah. Brad's fantastic.
he owns the Kings Links golf course. So
Yeah.
definitely, whenever you investors come out, I'll take you and meet Brad and go golf at his golf course. Larry Martin was the lead for the IPO over at
Right.
for
At
our
lead.
financing. Yeah, we're at Lead
The
Jones
lead at
Gable
lead.
Financial. Yeah, the lead at Lead. And Larry is amazing. We actually brought him fishing for the first time last year, fly fishing up in the Pitt River and stuff, and he loved it, and we loved him. So he's been a great component along with his right hand, and so yeah, it's super tight. We got less than 30 million shares outstanding. Really, like 600,000 options, zero warrants currently. We do have an open financing that we're strategically placing as we speak. So it's super tight. I would say after we raise the money and do what we want to do, we probably have less than 40 million shares outstanding. And most of it is in good hands. Like, it's a testament, and we're in a really bad, climate for the markets right now. I see a lot of opportunities, stocks that were trading at $2 now trading at 50 cents. Stocks that were at 20 cents now at 2 cents. So we've maintained that median level about a quarter. So we're happy with everyone that's on the register. So we really are striving towards bringing in the right investors in this financing, strategic investors that will be in every level, and that's what you got to do in these markets. Even though they're tough, don't take the easy money, because easy money is usually the easy ones out first.
Right. Well, that's great. Sounds like you got some great strategic investors, some well-known, successful people there to a testament to sort of your network. Maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the other members of your management team, any your board members, and then sort of key management, like who's handling exploration and stuff like that. Anybody notable there that we should hear about?
I should start with the boots on the ground. They don't get enough recognition. And being CEO, I do have a strong network of technical friends, people that do great work and stuff. Longford Exploration, which is now Axiom. James Rogers, he's one of our technical advisors. You had him on your show as well. Very
Yeah.
well connected. I've known James for a very long time. Me and him were on the CSE magazine as the new faces of mining. So we've known each other for a long time, and he helped on the early stages, really evaluating this project area. So him and his team have done a tremendous job putting all the pieces together. They actually did the data compilation. So Mira, actually, that works at Axiom now, she probably is the most in tune on everything that's happened over the last centuries in the Baie Verte Peninsula, even though she lives here in Vancouver, or actually in Richmond. So they're key to what has been done and what's going forward to be done. Luke, which was a part of the group, he's still consulting there. He's been on the project a handful of times. Planet X, which is based in Gander, Newfoundland. I've known Planet X for a long, long time as well too. Victor French is a key component. Gary Lewis is the guy that's introduced Newfound Gold to the area.
Great.
Gary I've known since 2015. Great guy and very aligned with us. So, I also actually I would be amiss to mention, I had a great call with Alex Bailey from the Bailey family. They're multiple generation Baie Verte, very successful entrepreneur family. And Alex is a young guy that is really, he wants to carve part of his legacy for his family, because his family have done such a great job of being entrepreneurs and building businesses in Baie Verte and elsewhere. But Alex really wants to get involved more in the mining industry and exploration. So moving forward, I really want to align with Alex. Who else is there? Fred Keats is he was just on the property 2 weeks ago. He's made many discoveries, including the Keats Zone, which is Newfoundland Gold's major discovery. The Keats family has been all over the place and know everything. So, Fred can really sniff out ore.
Who's on your board? Anybody notable to talk about on your board?
So Michael Williams, we're on a call this morning. He's out in Frankfurt. He had the successful takeover of Underworld, Rob McLeod. So he has a few companies going, and he's been instrumental in introductions and getting the story out there. John Theobald out in London. Nobody really knows him unless you're in the London circuit. Amazing technical. He's had a lot of success. Worked with majors. I haven't met him in person yet, but when I go out to Mines and Money in November, definitely going to spend some time with John, bounce a bunch of things off of him. Who else we got? Panella, which is our corporate secretary. She, being a new CEO to junior mining, the logistics and figuring things out, Panella and our CFO, Brandon Schwab, have been instrumental in helping me make sure that I'm doing what I need to do and making sure that, we're in good standing governance-wise, corporate-wise. So they're instrumental pieces. Panella was actually, she was the mentor of Kelly Pladsen, which is the corporate secretary of Patriot Battery Metals, which that's another story. We should have a little fireside chat of the hits and misses of this industry, because I was helping Patriot Battery Metals. Prior to that was Gaia Metals. Prior to that was 92 Resources. I've been helping Adrian Lamoureux and Blair Way and Dushan Burka for at least 6-7 years in every iteration. And they had that project for many years before it became the success it is.
Right.
So that story for another time. But I'm looking to add a few new people now that I came in as CEO. Some people within my network. Got to have those conversations, but they're household names that people will recognize and respect. And so always building, always growing. There's some more things to add to that too.
Excellent. Thanks for the overview. Very commendable of you to recognize so many members of the team. Sounds like you got a great team that you pulled together. Maybe while we sort of wrap up here, what would be some of the key milestones that we can look for in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, in the next 2 months, we're going to expect drill results coming from our neighbor, Teco Minerals. I think the market is going to get very excited about that. Even after they just announced the acquisition, they had a news release 2 days ago that they've been inundated with offtake offers. People that can't get enough of copper. It's in high demand, and so we anticipate them having a successful 40,000 meters of drilling. They don't want to put that back into production, so they want to grow it. So, the upside potential for us and for our shareholders is for us to do boots on the ground and make new discoveries and demonstrate that we are their upside potential, and we have a lot more to demonstrate. So I don't know, like we're taking month after month strategically. We'll have some more boots on the ground programs. We did make a discovery a couple weeks ago of Fred Keats that has some very high grade copper and gold in an area that is surrounded by historical stuff like the up to 30%. I think it was like 28.7% copper on the surface. That area is very underexplored. So we really want to look at that area. I'm hitting the road. I want to get the story out to investors. If you look at our corporate presentation, it really highlights in detail. Like there's a lot to talk about. I know it is a long presentation.
Yeah, it's a great presentation. By the way, I was reviewing it in preparation for this, and covers a lot of detail. I know you're good at pulling those details together. You got a great website that goes into this history and whatnot. Got some great maps, which I know you're big on. So it makes it easy to understand the significance. So that's great. I guess, are there any other sort of last thoughts that you want to sort of leave us with? I think it's been a great opportunity to first off get to meet you. You sound very passionate about the opportunity. Sounds like exactly the type of thing when people are looking to back and invest into sort of like exploration stocks where there's some high potential for discovery. Sounds like you've tipped the playing field a bit in your advantage. We'll have to see. The luck's going to be in with Mother Nature there, but you've done some good work. Any last thoughts you want to leave us with?
Yeah, pretty much join the hunt with us. Like, I know you're a shareholder now, Kier, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
You can only make success from, buying the lottery tickets. If you don't have the lottery ticket, you can't win the lottery. We have a very tight share structure, a lot of aligned partners, including all the vendors, all of our friends there in Newfoundland. There's a lot going on, and I think Oteco is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for us, bringing a lot of eyeballs into the Baie Verte Peninsula. We have a lot of synergies. I'll just leave you with this. Newfoundland is the last frontier. Like I said in the very beginning, the prospectors have done a great job on the surface, amazing work on the surface, found a lot of smoke in all areas of Newfoundland, but nobody has spent the time and money to make new discoveries. And with the consolidation of the Baie Verte Peninsula already completed, now is a time to really showcase what this camp has. And, everyone I talk to, when they hear where we are, what we have. So I love that. I love that project. I'm glad you guys are moving it forward, and we're going to be as aggressive as we can. So, our valuation right now is like 7 million. That's nothing, especially if the Ming Mine got acquired for 65 million Australian dollars. But yeah, we're just going to work hard, and we're going to keep communication high. So thanks for having me on the show, and I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, excellent. We'd love to have you on again. We'll sort of keep track of your progress. Maybe we can have you on next quarter. But hey, Sean, we'll let you get on with your busy day. Thanks so much for giving us a nice overview. You're very, very well spoken, and I got a tremendous network. So again, thank you for the time and the interest.
Thanks, everyone.